If someone calls you their soulmate on day 3, plans Paris, Bali, and your wedding in texts, but can't even show up for Friday night, that's not romance. That's love bombing. It looks like a fairy tale on your phone and feels like anxiety in your body. Today, we're going to slow that down and name what's actually happening. In this video, we'll talk about what love bombing really is, why some people do it, how it hooks you, and how to protect your peace without turning your heart to stone. If you have old-school values in modern dating, this is especially for you. Because love bombing doesn't just waste your time, it attacks your belief in real commitment. Love bombing isn't just "they were really into me." It's a pattern. Too much, too fast, too soon, with no real foundation underneath. They come in with big words like, "You're my soulmate. I've never felt this way about anyone. We're meant to be," before they've spent real time getting to know you. They jump to future fantasy, trips, weddings, moving in, our life together, when you barely know each other's middle name or daily habits. From the outside, it looks romantic. On the inside, your body feels rushed, overwhelmed, and a little bit dizzy, like you're being pulled onto a moving train. Real connection takes time and consistent action. Love bombing tries to skip time and jump straight into intensity and fantasy so you attach quickly. The key sign is this: their words move at lightning speed, but the data you have about them is tiny. You're bonding with a story, not a stable person. So why do some people love bomb? First, for the high. They love the rush of being adored and wanted without doing the slow work of showing up consistently. Second, for access. Love bombing can be a shortcut to your time, your body, your attention, and your emotional energy. Intense words can disarm your boundaries. Third, they're often copying a script. Movies, social media, and even some romantic content glorify big gestures and fast love, so they perform romance like a role. Some people also feel more comfortable in chaos than in calm. Fast intensity lets them skip the vulnerable parts of real intimacy: honesty, repair, and responsibility. They're not always thinking, "I will manipulate you now." Often, they're just used to pressing fast forward because slower, grounded connection feels boring or scary. The important part is this: love bombing is about their pattern and their coping, not your value. You didn't make them do this. You just showed up with a heart. If you have an old-school heart and you value real commitment and effort, love bombing can feel like finally being seen and chosen. At first, it feels like relief. Finally, someone who actually wants me, someone who isn't afraid to say it. That's why it hits so hard, because it feels so intense and special. You start to blur the facts. You overlook cancellations, mixed signals, and small lies, because the story feels so good. When they pull back or get flaky, you don't question their pattern. You question yourself. Maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe I'm too sensitive. But the reality is, if their behavior never matched their words, you were reacting to confusion, not being too much. Love bombing often leaves you with an emotional hangover. You miss the fantasy, you doubt your judgment, and you feel ashamed for believing it. Let's put this into a simple example. I call this the Wi-Fi boyfriend pattern. Huge feelings over text, very little effort in real life. Seth looks at Nova and says, "Nova, Paris, Bali, our wedding." It sounds like a whole future: travel, romance, commitment. Nova laughs and asks one grounded question. "Cute. What about Friday?" Seth says, "I'm free to text Friday." Not to see her, not to show up, just to keep the fantasy going through Wi-Fi. Nova closes the loop. "No Wi-Fi boyfriend. I date reality." In that moment, she chooses actions over fantasy. The lesson is simple. If someone can plan Paris but not Friday, you're not in a relationship. You're in a fantasy, powered by your phone and your hope. So, what can you do when you notice love bombing? Step 1. Slow the pace. You don't have to match their speed just because they're pushing hard. You can say, "I like getting to know you, but I move slower. Let's see how this feels over time instead of rushing into big labels or plans." Step 2. Test consistency, not intensity. Watch the small, boring things. Do they show up when they said they would? Do they follow through on simple plans? If they say, "I'll call you tomorrow," notice if they actually do. If they promise Friday, notice if Friday happens, not just more paragraphs about how much they care. Step 3, call it out calmly. You don't need a fight. You can say, "You use very big words for how little we know each other. For me, trust is built over time and actions." Or like Nova, if it's always text and no real plan, you can say, "This feels like a Wi-Fi relationship. I'm looking for someone who shows up in real life." Step 4, treat repetition as data. One bad week can happen, but 3 or 4, "I'm sick," "something came up," or "I'm not ready for labels" after heavy love bombing is a pattern. You can say, "We're in very different places. I need consistency and honesty, and this isn't matching that. I'm going to step back." You don't need their approval to leave. Quick recap. Love bombing is too much, too fast, too soon, big words and big fantasies without the slow, steady actions to back it up. People do it for the high, for access, and because they're used to chaos. It hooks you by targeting your old-school hope for real love and making you doubt yourself later. Your power is in slowing down, testing consistency, naming the pattern, and believing your own eyes more than their paragraphs. If their words feel like a fairy tale but their behavior feels like a mess, that's not chemistry. That's confusion on purpose. You deserve steady, not dizzy. Laugh first, move smarter, spot the pattern, and protect your peace.